From the city's chief planner to its chief executive, or more precisely, its mayor, it would be a first, and that's exactly what Jennifer Keesmaat is trying to do. After the Ontario government abruptly overhauled Toronto City Council this summer, she jumped into what many had expected to be a sleepy race. It's now largely a two-way contest between the current mayor and her. And Jennifer Keesmaat joins us now with more on her vision for the province's capital city. Good to have you in that chair again.
Great to be here.
What do you think this election's all about?
Well, this election is about whether we can make our city better or whether we're going to stick with the status quo.
What's wrong with the status quo?
Well, the problem with the status quo is that over the past 4 years, we have become the most expensive city in Canada in which to rent. Like, we used to tease Vancouverites and say, wow, can't live there, it's so expensive. Well, guess what? It's more expensive now to live in Toronto. That's an incredible risk. 94% of the young people surveyed by the Toronto Real Estate Board have said they're thinking about leaving the city because they don't see a future here. That's new, that's something that's happened in the past 4 years, and that's a major problem for this city. The other is commute times. We've seen commute times go up over the course of the past 4 years. In fact, we're now billed as having the worst commute times in North America. That's a problem.
That predates John Tory's time as mayor.
It does, but it hasn't gotten any better, and it can get better. Just like housing, it can get better. It's a choice. And then, of course, there's public safety. We've been through a very traumatic, I would say 6 months, but it's been building for many years. We have a public safety crisis in this city, whether it's road safety, pedestrians, in particular senior citizens, are getting killed on our streets. We know that cities around the world have embraced Vision Zero and as a result are making their streets safer by design. And then, of course, there's gun violence, which is part of that public safety challenge. And there's things that we can do at the neighborhood level in order to ensure our city is safe moving forward. So this election is really about, are we going to keep things the way they are, or are we going to choose leadership that believes in taking swift action in order to set this city on a sustainable course?
All right, we will unpack all of those during the course of our conversation, but I think it's probably useful to start a little bit with just you, because John Tory's been in public life for many, many decades, and you've been in public life for about 2 months. So
That's right.
You've quite publicly said in the past you were never interested in running for public office. You were very happy sort of playing a role behind the scenes. And then on deadline day, in fact, the afternoon of deadline day, you put your name forward. How come?
Well, it's true. I'd said that many times before, and it's true that I'm not a politician. And you know, no one was more surprised than my mom, in part because we've talked about it a lot as a family, my bigger family, but also specifically my family. It's been building over the course of many months. Ever since I left as chief planner, you know it, everywhere I went in the city, I was hearing the refrain, I was getting phone calls from media. I was having people approach me on the street and saying, we need a positive, hopeful vision for this city. You can do it. You can deliver something different. And so I was hearing that again and again and again.
And you said no to those people over and over and over.
I did. I
So
said,
what
no,
changed?
no. Well, you hit a tipping point. It's kind of like when I was running my business. I'm an entrepreneur. I built a small firm. We had 3 people. I built it into a national practice that today employs over 600 people. When I was leading in that firm, a partner in that firm, I got called not once, not twice, but 3 times by the City of Toronto asking me to become the chief planner. And they planted the seed. I wasn't looking for a change. It was never on my hit list to become the chief planner. And eventually I got my head there and it became a very exciting possibility. And really the same thing happened. Over the course of the past several months, people kept asking me, planting the seed. And I hit a moment where I think my frustration and my sense of opportunity for the city around building transit, building housing, addressing public safety, all of those key issues, I started to see, whoa, there's so much we can do if we believe in this city and we're willing to work with neighborhoods.
Well, I would never say there's only one way to get to the mayor's office, because obviously there's any number of ways. But if you look at the people who tend to have the job, you know, as I say, John Tory's been in public life for 35 years. You know, Rob Ford was on city council for a decade. Mel Lastman had been the mayor of North York. Barbara Hall. I mean, everybody kind of gets here as a result of having been in elective politics for quite some time. Is it a legitimate question to ask, given your lack of electoral experience, are you really ready to take on this job?
Well, it's a funny question in some ways because Mr. Tory was the leader of the Conservative Party for 5 years. And when he was running for mayor, everyone said, oh, he's never been at City Hall. He doesn't understand. I remember actually.
He'd run for City Hall once before.
Well, but he'd never been in a council meeting.
Right.
He'd actually never been in the council chambers. You'll remember.
That is true.
There was a big conversation about that. And in fact, one of my frustrations at City Hall was that I was constantly saying, look, why do we have these 3-4-day council meetings? We can run these meetings much more effectively and efficiently. They don't need to be this big mess that they are, but the mayor's the one who chairs that. And I think the challenge is that Mayor Tory has spent a lot of time sort of getting his feet wet, and I can walk right in there. I know exactly how I would change city council meetings. As the chair of city council, that's what the mayor can do to make them more efficient. And I'll give you a clue. It has to do with all the walk-on notices without motion that usually add a day, and they also bypass the committee process, which is where the public gets to participate. It's not a good approach. I raised it multiple times with the mayor when I was at the city, but I wasn't the chair of the committee.
Would you end that?
I would absolutely change that committee. I would change that approach in city council.
Can you do that unilaterally?
Yeah, the mayor is the chair. The mayor is the chair of city council.
The reason I ask this is that there's every possibility that even with the slimmed down Toronto City Council that will be elected on the 22nd, it will be a majority of suburban as opposed to downtown politicians. It will be a majority of probably councillors who are more conservative than you. And again, I think it's a legitimate question to ask whether you can get anything done that you want to get done, given that there's every likelihood, if you were the mayor, you'd be in the minority on council. What's the answer?
Well, I don't actually think that's true, and I'll tell you why. The power of municipal government is that it is very fluid. People, they loosely affiliate with parties, but not strongly. And we see that on votes that, go all over the place all the time. And that demonstrates the opportunity for leadership. If you think about a board, I've sat on many boards over my professional life. If you sit at a board meeting, you might have one vote on that board. But when you show up to the board meeting and you have an item that you want to advance, you sit down at the table and you convince your colleagues. You bring them evidence and data and best practices. You convince your colleagues, and then everyone votes. That's how leadership works.
So you think you can convince people in the north end of Etobicoke or the east end of Scarborough to see it your way when otherwise they might not?
Well, I think it comes back to having a vision. And I think one of the challenges we have right now is we don't have a vision. Keeping taxes low isn't a vision for a city.
But it's important to a hell of a lot of people.
It absolutely is, and I'm assuming we'll talk about that a bit more. And the last thing that the municipality should be doing is increasing the burden of affordability. So that's why I've brought forward a very progressive approach to taxing. But the point here is that the mayor can be the leader who brings forward a vision. I had this when I was working on the transit network plan. And I worked with councillors very well across the political spectrum. Straight across the political spectrum when I was the chief planner. I had a mayor who was a councillor who's far to the right, who came up to me and said, listen, Keesmaat, you saved our bacon. And you saved our bacon because we didn't know what to do with this mess, this transit mess that we have, and you've brought forward a plan so that as councillors, we don't have to be trying to figure out what the right thing is to do.
You want to tell us who said that?
And well, I won't out him.
Okay.
It was a guy, but I won't out him.
Okay, let's get you.
Because I might be working with him again.
You unpacked a bunch of issues in your first answer, and let's see if we can get to some of those right now. And again, I sort of want to beg the indulgence of people who are watching us from outside the capital city right now, because they may not be up to scratch on all of these issues. So I'm going to take a little extra time here just to sort of explain it. The waterfront, the Gardiner Expressway, this 50-year-old highway that's been running across the bottom of Toronto on the lakeshore, east-west. There are competing visions for what to do with that. You've got something that I guess you have called the Grand Boulevard, ripping down part of the Gardiner Expressway, replacing it with something that looks a little more human scale, if you like. Why is that the way to go?
So it's important to note that this is a continuation of a plan that was started. The first portion of the Gardiner's already come down to the east of the Don Valley. And what we're talking about here is the most underutilized part of the Gardiner.
3% of the cars use it.
3% of cars use it in the city. So it often isn't at capacity. There's lots of room on this portion. It gets jammed up on the other end, but not on this end. And it's very expensive to maintain. This is why cities are tearing down expressways all over the world. It's expensive to put concrete up in the sky and to maintain it, which is why they're in a constant state of repair. So the plan that was advanced by city planning staff as well as transportation staff and Waterfront Toronto was to tear down this portion of the Gardner to create a grand boulevard, and that releases up development as well. Development parcels, 12 acres of land on the waterfront become available for development as a result of taking down this crumbling infrastructure.
Pretty prime real estate.
Prime real estate.
Well, now I'm betting that you and John Lawrence, who's a journalist who writes for Spacing Magazine, I bet you guys agree on 98% of everything. However, here's what, yes, good time for a sip of water because I'm going to read you something here that John writes. He says, it's possible the lack of traffic is symptomatic of the fact that very few people are currently heading towards that mostly derelict corner of the waterfront. But if we fast forward a generation, there will be thousands of people living and or working in that very precinct, on the Unilever site, the Portlands, Quayside, the East Bayfront, and whatever gets built on the north side of the Keating Channel. Given this entirely predictable consequence of new development, I'd say it's likely that the Grand Boulevard Keesmaat proposes could be bumper to bumper, an 8-lane vehicle sewer. Is he right or wrong about that?
Well, he makes two mistakes. The first mistake is that right now the Gardner acts as a through route. It's actually, you're not actually going there. It's not a destination.
From somewhere to somewhere.
Exactly. So in the new plan, it's actually a destination. So it'll be a bit like the downtown. You're right, it won't be a place for fast-moving cars, but it'll be a destination, a place to go to. We'll be using that land right on the waterfront instead of passing through it. The second is that a critical part of this plan is building out the waterfront LRT, and that gets into my transit network plan. But we know you simply can't move a high density of people. We don't in the city today in cars. We move people primarily on transit, 1.8 million transit rides a day in the city of Toronto. That's why it's so critical to expand the transit network. So that's the second part, and I will add one more. I know I said two, but I'll add one more, which is that we studied all this. So there has been transportation modeling that has looked at the movement flows in this new plan. So there's a report, there's data that you can look at, and that data demonstrates that this is in the best interests of traffic movement as well.
You just heard Mayor Tory talk about his transit plans. I suggested to him your criticism that essentially Smart Track, I think your expression was sort of invented on the back of an envelope at some point. Tell us what the biggest and most significant differences are between what he's got in mind for public transit going forward and what you've got in mind.
So the differences are significant, and I heard Mr. Tory say that his 6 GO stations would be transformational, and I don't know what he's talking about. The ridership numbers in the modeling are very, very low, and it is dependent on fare integration, which it's been 4 years, it hasn't happened yet, and Premier Doug Ford has made it clear that that's not a priority right now. So if there isn't an integrated fare with those stations, we'll have the same situation we have today, where there's GO stations and TTC riders going right by them because they have to pay twice. So there's some fatal flaws with what he's proposed.
Is that a fatal flaw? That's a challenge. I don't know that it's a fatal flaw.
It's a fatal flaw for driving ridership. That you just don't get the ridership. But let's talk about my plan,
Sure.
Because my plan is about building out. It's the Paris model, continuously building out transit. So what we do in our city right now is a lot of stopping and starting. And I heard from someone on Mr. Tory's campaign team that Smart Track was developed by campaign strategists. And that's why it really hasn't delivered and won't deliver any value on the transportation front. The plan that I've brought forward was developed by transportation planners, and it is about filling all the gaps in the transit network, because people don't ride a line. You don't ride one magic line. In fact, 60% of the trips in the city of Toronto start on the bus and transfer onto either the subway or the streetcar. So my plan is about looking at the entire city and saying, what are the gaps in the network? And some of them need to be filled with subways. Some need to be filled with LRT. In some instances, we need to improve the streetcar service. So making the King Street pilot permanent is part of my plan. Building the waterfront LRT is part of my plan. The Jane LRT, which will connect into the Finch LRT, going right up to Black Creek. That means Northern Etobicoke will have excellent transit. The Paris model is about having a plan, a long-term plan, and you don't stop building. You're constantly building.
How much of this is or isn't funded?
So most of our transit infrastructure is funded through monies from the federal and the provincial government, as they should be. We make a significant contribution in taxes that we don't get back, and getting that money back for capital infrastructure is absolutely essential. Every time we've made a pitch with a real project to the federal government or the provincial government, the funding has followed. So I think this builds the integrity of that process of negotiation with the federal and the provincial government. And I should add, my plan also includes delivering the relief line 3 years earlier, which is essential because we have an overload. We're at 120% on the Yonge line right now. And the worst thing that we could do is extend it farther north without building more capacity into the system. It's already jammed at Yonge and Eglinton.
You and Premier Ford agree on that. That's the relief line is his top transit priority as well.
Absolutely. It's essential to the entire network being able to function. And that's why my plan is I've worked with the transportation planners and we've looked at how we can deliver it sooner. And, you know, Mr. Tory's priority was Smart Track. And earlier this year, this is one of the reasons I'm in the race, I was pretty unhappy, to say the least, to discover that the transportation planners had been pulled off the relief line and had been reassigned to getting those Smart Track stations approved when we know our number one priority must be the relief line.
Let's talk housing. You heard in the interview with John Tory that, he acknowledges that your plan is twice as ambitious as his. He also says it's completely unfeasible. There aren't enough trades in order to get to your 100,000 affordable units over a decade plus. So, is he right or wrong?
Well, last night we heard at the Globe and Mail Board of Trade debate, we heard from the building association that represents all the developers in the region say we need more supply. We need to be much more ambitious in delivering supply.
Can they actually build it, though?
Well, what the industry has been saying to me is that the biggest challenge they face right now is land, access to land. Prices are sky high. And it's hard to get new land in this city. It's a limited geography. What does the city have? We have over 8,000 sites right now that we could be using to deliver homes that residents in this city can afford. We can be doing that. So think of
8,000 sites the city owns.
Yeah, well, yes. So some of them have existing uses.
Well, you mentioned golf courses the other day.
Well, that's for recreational uses. A lot of the golf courses are environmentally protected areas. They're in the floodplain because they're adjacent to ravines. Those lands can be better used for recreational. But back to the housing, we have surface parking lots. We can put the parking below grade and build homes that people can afford above. We can take one-story subway stations. We're getting too mature as a city to have land that's underutilized. We can build mid-rise buildings on those one-story subway stations. There's a wealth of opportunity, and what we need to do is take those sites, bundle them together, put them out to the industry, and the industry has made it very clear, we're there, we will absolutely build it. The risk, of course, is that we're too unambitious. And we've seen that over the past 4 years. We're the most expensive city in this country in which to rent. Like that's pretty astounding.
When you told these developers and when you had these conversations with developers and you let them know that you thought a tax on luxury houses would be a good way to help pay for your program, what was their reaction to that?
You know the amazing thing, Steve? Because I've proposed a progressive tax that's on the 0.001%. And the objective of that tax, which is at the very, very high end of the market, so people who live in homes worth more than $4 million, in order to provide access to home ownership for a next generation, there really hasn't been blowback. And the reason is because people that are in homes that are worth more than $4 million are pretty much saying, you know what, we do want a next generation to have access to home ownership. I had a wonderful conversation with someone who came here as an immigrant 25 years ago who would be in that 4 million category. This was about a week ago, just before I announced it. And you know what he said to me? He said, I came here with absolutely nothing. I had a suitcase and $200, and I've built a business. My children have gotten an excellent education, and now I'm worried that my kids don't have the same opportunity, but they were born here. And so this is really about ensuring that the next generation in our city doesn't have to leave, so that our kids have the access to home ownership that many of us had due to circumstance. The city can play a leadership role in ensuring that we're providing that access through a rent-to-own program. And the great thing about the rent-to-own program is that your rental payment is your contribution to your mortgage, and the city holds a second mortgage, which brings the price down of the overall home, and that's how you provide access. It's a program that's been used in other cities. There's no reason why we can't do it here. It just takes political will.
I have a half an hour of questions left, and we have less than 10 minutes to go here, so I'm trying to edit on the fly. Even Mr. Tory, in his interview earlier on the program, acknowledged that you've got a lot of very interesting ideas, and you two worked most of the time pretty well together when you were the chief planner and he was the mayor. He would be the first one to tell you that being the mayor, though, is not just about knowing where to build in the city and what's your idea about transit. It's showing up at Strawberry Socials. It's going to all of the ethnic festivals. You're the governor general in a way as well. It's about having a policy on crime prevention, which is nothing that you've really dealt with in your prior life as chief planner, or certainly not to the extent that you'd have to as the mayor. It's about going to partisan political events that also you have avoided much of in your short political career so far. Why should people not be concerned that you don't have enough experience for those other parts of the job at which you have no experience?
Well, a couple of things I'll say to that. The first is, unfortunately, we've seen over the past 4 years that Mr. Tory coming into this role, having no experience with housing and no experience with transit, has been a big problem in this city. You're talking about being able to work with communities and reach out to communities. I've done that as a planning professional. Over the course of my entire career, I've worked with communities. And of course, it's a bit different when you walk into the room and you're a politician and you're a mayoral candidate than you're a chief planner. But I held in my first year as chief planner hundreds of meetings with community groups and community organizations in every single corner of this city. And what that did was it helped me better understand and help me become attuned to everyday life in every corner of this city. And it's one of the reasons I'm running for mayor. People talk about how the city is divided, and we have income division, we have racial division in this city, as we've seen through Dr. Halchensky's research. But amazingly, we have a shared vision for this city, and access to housing and access to transit are the backbone of that vision. And of course, everyone wants to know that when their child leaves the house in the morning to go to school, that they're going to be safe. It's amazing to me in every corner of the city how similar Torontonians are in their aspirations. We are open-hearted and warm people. And the risk, of course, is that we're creating a city where there's a tremendous amount of exclusion. And we know that's happening.
No,
we
I
can
hear
see
you,
the data.
but he's on the police services board. He has been following crime issues at least for 4 years, if not more. When you're the head of the PC party, you spend a lot of time thinking about crime because that's a big, obviously big issue for them. You haven't. How do you compete with him on issues of crime prevention, for example?
Well, I'll say that if he's done a lot of thinking about it, unfortunately, there hasn't been a lot of leadership on that file. So if we look, for example, at the first thing that Mr. Tory did, he froze policing and the hiring of policing. And then we slowly saw a crisis emerge in our city. We have a modernization plan that has stalled. And now he has said, oh, we'll hire more police officers without clarity as to what the plan and the vision is for how that will advance. I've done a tremendous amount of work at the community level. And one of the things that I know about crime prevention from working at the neighborhood level is that when we have schools and teachers and local health networks and United Way and grassroots organizations working in a neighborhood-based approach on crime, that's where we reap rewards in terms of prevention. One of the things I did when I graduated from planning school was I created a nonprofit organization. Some people in the city know this, but not too many people, working with at-risk youth. And it was precisely for this reason. And I was the vice chair of the board. I created the organization. We ran several different organizations throughout the city of Toronto, including River Restaurant, which was on Roncesvalles for over a decade. And that was all about ensuring that at-risk youth could access jobs in our city. So I think I might know a little bit more about this than it seems from the grassroots work that I've done with communities.
In our remaining moments, let me ask, here's a bit of a smart aleck question. If you were the mayor, would you want a chief planner like you were? And by that I mean someone who's really out there, very high profile, occasionally picking fights with the mayor. What do you think?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
No hesitation.
You say that now, but...
Well, hey, I'm the one who wants a debate. Mr. Tory's not here. He doesn't want to debate.
He doesn't mind a debate. He just wants more than you at the table. That's all.
Listen to this. When I was chief planner, I chose to do the job in a very public way because that's what I believe public service is about. Public service is about being accountable and working with the public. And I think having a chief planner who is engaged with communities and leading a team and pushing on best practices.
Publicly fighting with the mayor from time to time? You think that's okay?
Well, I think as Mr. Tory said, that was a little bit overblown. The perception of the public fights, they weren't quite as dramatic as was maybe perceived by the media. I want a chief planner, absolutely, who is going to engage and push for a better city.
Okay, I asked him this last question, and I'm going to ask you the same one. Can you say something complimentary about him? You've said a lot of very negative things about him during the course of the campaign. I get why you have to do that. You have to push his negatives up and his positives down so that you've got a shot at this. But what can you say complimentary about him?
Look, I think that when Mr. Tory became mayor, we were in a moment where we had an incredible amount of turbulence in the city. We were on late night comedy shows the world over. It was not a nice time, I think, for most Torontonians. And I think we need to be grateful, and I'm grateful to Mr. Tory for coming in and being the steady hand. And I think that's what he's good at. He's good at being the steady hand. And there are moments when that's what you need. Now, I think we're in a moment where the status quo isn't going to do, and I think we need something very different. But I can absolutely compliment Mr. Tory and be grateful to him for coming in that turbulent moment in our city's history and being the steady hand. I think he's done that exceptionally well, and that's what he's good at.
That's Jennifer Keesmaat, Toronto mayoralty candidate, former chief planner for the City of Toronto, and we are grateful to you for coming into TVO tonight and sharing your views.
My pleasure.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario, helping businesses stay on the right side of change with strategic thinking, insightful decisions, and business leadership. Are you on the right side of change? Ask an Ontario CPA.